I've made my love for early SpongeBob in this channel pretty clear at this point, so it might surprise some people to know that my actual favorite show is The Simpsons. One of my earliest memories was seeing this fat yellow guy floating around in space, eating potato chips to the tune of Blue Danube Waltz, and thinking it was the funniest thing I've seen in my life, and I've been a huge fan of the show ever since. I've grown to believe the golden age of the show is just the funniest thing humanity has ever made. Seriously, the way the show is able to rapidly fire hilarious jokes by continuously building upon the last is inhumanly impressive. There's also just so many lines from this show that live rent-free in my head. Every time I play Minecraft with my friends, I feel the need to say, "Iron helps us play." After finding iron, I literally can't hear the words dental plan without wanting to add, "Lisa needs braces." I'm pretty sure I've used the term car hole more than garage at this point, and steamed hams. Just literally every line in that. I know that's such a standard example, but come on, that scene is art. There are so many more, but I gotta stop somewhere. Beyond the comedy, I've also grown to really love how much heart this show can have. It's a comedy over anything else, but the right episode can still make me feel the feels. That ending to "And Maggie Makes 3" does things to me, man. Heck, I'm gonna say it, I think even the newest seasons can be great too. Pixelated and Afraid is actually a top 20 episode for me, and I'm not kidding. These episodes are definitely not as funny, and there's still too many duds, but the good ones still have so much going for them, especially if you love these characters as much as I do. I really do recommend some of these episodes, so here's just some of my favorites. And of course, there's loads of video games for this show too. A lot of them are bad. Most even, but there are some exceptions. Easily the most beloved and revered is The Simpsons Hit and Run, a game developed by Radical Entertainment released in 2003 for GameCube, PS2, Xbox, and PC, originally conceived as a sequel to Radical's previous Simpsons game, Road Rage. However, Sega ended up suing Vivendi Universal for that game being a blatant Crazy Taxi clone, so Radical retooled what they had, making some major changes, the biggest being the addition of on-foot gameplay. So though many do ironically claim this to be a clone of another game, Grand Theft Auto 3 and Vice City, that was actually just an accident. There's a lot of love out there for this game, often cited as the best Simpsons game or even best licensed game period. Personally, I grew up with it, and yeah, it was one of my favorites as a kid. And it was even the first game I rebought when I was a preteen when I was rebuilding my GameCube collection, but despite all of that, I've never actually beaten a game before making this video. As a kid, it was mainly because I just had more fun exploring Springfield, doing whatever, just messing around. But later on in life, I never beat it for other reasons I'll get into later. Before I finally actually get into the game itself, I do want to talk about how I'm playing this game. I used to be very strict in how I play games for this channel. I always wanted to play on original hardware with no mods at all, while only highlighting what you can do through other methods at the end of the video for the sake of being as fair as possible. However, in many situations, emulators, or even mods in this case, literally just make the game look cleaner and therefore provides a better viewing experience, so I guess expect less original hardware for older games going forward. In this case, I'm playing the original 2003 PC release, using Lucas's mod loader to use codes that add various fixes to the PC port, and of course higher resolution and wider aspect ratio support. The end result is more or less identical to what a simple HD port would look like, so this game wouldn't look all that different from this if you were to play this on an old console or even through the PC port with no mods at all. Though this is how I recommend playing this game now. There's no gameplay changes being made, with the only actual mod being used in this is one that realigns the HUD for 16:9 displays. So once again, I think this just makes for a better viewing experience. Anyway, let's finally get into the game. This game's story is interesting. It opens up with a CG cutscene mimicking the show's intro, but with all these wasp robots with cameras spreading around Springfield. Homer smashes one shortly before seeing Krusty promoting this new formula for Buzz Cola on TV.
This one isn't poisonous to anybody!
That we know of.
As time goes on, people start noticing that the wasp cameras are spying on them.
Where is the sexy footage?
Later, Bart skips school for the new Bone Storm game, but can't find any copies because some crazy lady destroyed them all. And he ends up helping Professor Frink rebuild Truckosaurus instead, which eventually leads to him getting abducted. Lisa goes out searching for Bart, asking everyone, trying to narrow down where he might be, prompting Milhouse to be a little creep and lead her on when she's trying to find her lost brother. She eventually finds Bart, but now he speaks in
Kiss my grits.
something. Marge, searching for answers, eventually is able to connect the new Buzz Cola with these crop circles that have been popping up recently thanks to the help of Abe, eventually getting Bart to talk normally again, with Bart now claiming aliens are using the cola to mind control humanity. Apu, with the help of Bart, are both eventually able to trace down a lot of this back to Springfield Museum, and then see Buzz Cola dripping down into the mouth of a T-Rex skeleton, bringing it back to life. Briefly. After exploring a bit deeper, they find the aliens King and Kodos hiding away. Listening to their plan, they learn that Earth is the focus of a long-running reality TV show aired across the galaxy called Foolish Earthlings. In an effort to boost ratings, they've spiked the Buzz Cola with something that makes people act irrational, and even has the power to bring back the dead, with plans on spiking the humans' entire water supply to make everyone go mad, and of course, raising the dead, boosting the show's ratings to numbers never seen before. This actually happens, leading to one of the coolest levels aesthetically in any video game. Professor Frink has the idea to blow up the UFO in the school's playground by using toxic waste barrels. It takes more than one, so Homer has to use the various barrels that Mr. Burns very safely and very ethically buried around Springfield. After doing that a few more times, the UFO crashes down, forcing Foolish Earthlings to finally end, but with an incredible finale, making Homer a hero across the galaxy. Tonally, this isn't very far off from a Treehouse of Horror special, and I'm not just saying that because of the presence of King and Kodos or even the zombie uprising. The Simpsons is usually a relatively grounded show in terms of stories. Usually. Like, yeah, a lot of jokes are pretty out there, and even the plots can be a little goofy, but a lot of this are just not things you'll ever see in a typical Simpsons episode, but you will in a Treehouse of Horror. And honestly, I think it works really well. It is a video game with very video gamey mechanics featuring children who drive, so making this story as out there as it is despite the show's general tone was absolutely the right move. I also really like the escalation with things starting off normal-ish, but then the game ramps up things more and more, eventually leading to a zombie uprising. I'm a big fan of these spinning newspapers during loading screens that change as you progress through the story, though they do kind of become unreadable on modern PCs because of how quick everything loads. I absolutely love how many things we pull from the show too. Buzz Cola, Marge being against violence in media, Bone Storm, Truckosaurus, Burns disposing of toxic waste through not very legal methods, and even King of Kodos. They've always been such a fun take on the cliche alien archetype, and they're just as fun as always here. I also really love how they actively mock the people in the credits, such a funny detail.
And these bipeds, they are the slave underclass, tied to radiation dispensers day and night. Truly, death is their only relief.
Though I do gotta point out that there's an episode of South Park that also used a plot of aliens using Earth as a reality TV show, and coincidentally, that episode came out about 6 months before this game. Oh, the irony. As for the game itself, like I sorta said earlier, it's a lot like the GTA games in concept. It's a mission-based driving game with on-foot segments set in an open world. Aside from the basic concept of the game, I do find it to be very different from GTA overall, being a lot less violent and a lot more arcadey. So you'll never see something like Lisa robbing the Quickie Mart at gunpoint or anything. So I'm gonna avoid making too many comparisons here. On a conceptual level, this game is actual perfection. Exploring the world of the show that you love is always one of the biggest draws to any licensed game to me, especially when the world is The Simpsons' Springfield, a fictional town with an overwhelming amount of iconic locations that basically any fan would love to explore for themselves. This game allows you to do that to a much greater extent than most licensed games out there, and I adore that. There are some caveats that I'll get into later, but still, I love what this game offers anyway. On a more personal note, I remember as a kid, whenever I played games like Mario Kart, I so badly wanted to just get out of the cart and jump around, to explore the tracks more thoroughly. This game is literally that. Combine all of that with just how much I and so many other people love The Simpsons. Yeah, obviously this is a childhood favorite for so many people. This concept for a licensed game is just so good, it makes you question why this was never done again. This game has 7 levels total, and each level has you playing as a different character from the last, being Homer, Bart, Lisa, Marge, and Redacted. though both Homer and Bart get 2 levels while everyone else gets 1. All of them play exactly the same, just having their own unique voice clips and background music. Making each main Simpson that isn't a literal baby a playable character is an obvious choice, but I gotta question why Apu's in this game. Don't get me wrong, I love the guy, he's definitely one of my favorite side characters in the show, but giving him a playable role in this game is such a random decision. He's definitely not so important in the show to exactly necessitate this, and there's nothing in the story that really requires him. I'm not complaining, I just think it's an odd choice. You'll be playing as these characters mostly by driving around in different cars, but you do get more direct on-foot control too. You can run, jump, double jump, kick, and ground pound by double jumping into a kick. You also don't have any health, with the worst thing that can happen to you being just knocked over. The ground controls in this game aren't the greatest though. Holding the run button forces your character to weirdly control like a car, which just doesn't feel great, and the movement in the air feels very stiff. The game thankfully rarely asks you of any real precision when you're on foot, so it's really only an issue the very occasional time where you do need to do some platforming. I also really don't like how the camera aims down when you're running up slopes. It's so backwards. It even happens on tiny slopes. Why? You're not really going to be on foot too often anyway, so while these things aren't ideal, they're still usable. The focus is on the driving, and the on-foot stuff is mostly just relegated to a handful of missions and side areas with collectibles. I do want to talk about those collectibles for a bit though. Throughout each level, you'll find several different collectibles, like these collectible cards. There's 7 in each level, with every card being a reference to an episode. Most of them are easy enough to find if you just look around, but there's definitely a few that gave me trouble. They don't do anything on their own other than just giving you a fun little description to read, but you do unlock something if you get all of them that I'll talk about much later. There's also gags to collect. Basically, you go next to a glowing item, press a button, something funny happens, and your percentage goes up. Kinda lame that there's no tangible reward for getting all of them aside from number goes up, but they're still fun to find, and of course many of these are references to the show, like many things you'll find in this game. Frostilicus from Lisa the Simpson, the Flanders' bomb shelter from Bart's Comet, the baby ball pit from Itchy and Scratchy Land, the catapult from Homer vs. the 18th Amendment, and so much more. Each level has watch cameras hidden around too. Getting all of them does nothing but increase your completion percentage, but you do get a bunch of coins whenever you do destroy one, so they're still worth going after when you see one. Because yeah, you'll need a lot of coins in this game, especially if you're a completionist. You'll need coins to buy different cars and even skins, which you might think you don't need, and generally you don't, but sometimes the game will arbitrarily decide that you need a certain car or skin to proceed, even if there's no logistical reason for that. Surely there's a bunch of cars that have enough durability to destroy Smithers' car, but the game still locks you into using the Plow King for whatever reason. Lisa doesn't need to wear her cool outfit for this mission with Police Chief Wiggum. She doesn't even leave the car in this, but the game disagrees. Every level has at least 1 or 2 examples of this, and early on, everything is cheap enough. I was able to buy absolutely everything, even the optional stuff for completion's sake, just by getting every coin I saw. But I guess inflation must hit Springfield extremely hard within the span of a week, because absolutely everything becomes worth thousands of coins by the end. Coin grinding is basically inevitable in this game, especially if you're a completionist. That really sucks because it heavily discourages you from buying anything optional. There's some really cool costumes in this game too. As you could probably guess, these are all references from the show, like Lisa's Florida costume from, $sign Pringfield. And like I said earlier, she has her cool outfit from Summer of Fort Foot 2. You know, the episode with the dud. Homer's moo-moo dress from King Size Homer, his stonecutter get-up from Homer the Great, the donut head from Treehouse of Horror 4, and Marge's police uniform from the Springfield Connection are just some of them. These are all just so fun to see translated into a game like this, which is why I hate that these become so expensive by the end with not a ton of ways to earn more coins. Getting thousands is easy once you enter a new level and can collect the loads of strays or the ones in crates everywhere, but once those are gone, they're gone. I think the game wants you to play the races with Fat Tony's gang to earn more coins, but that takes a while and is a bet, so risk is involved. what I recommend is going to mission 2 or 6 in level 6. It doesn't really matter which one, you spawn in basically the same spot in both. And from there, kick all of the boxes and vending machines twice, then reload the mission and repeat. The game doesn't keep track of how many times a box or vending machine was kicked after you reload the map, just whether or not it was destroyed. So you can get infinite coins from any box or vending machine in the game just by never fully destroying them. So you can do this anywhere. This area is just by far the most effective place to do it. This honestly does sort of fix the issue, but getting the coins for absolutely everything still took me long enough to get bored, and it's obviously not intended. It really is a shame that the ones just laying around only cover so much, because the collectathon lover in me really does get a lot of joy from collecting these things. They do a good job using the coins to guide the player to new areas and rewarding them for finding little nooks. They're also just so satisfying to collect. The way they fly into you when you get close, the sound effect used when you collect them, and bursting through a crate with a car to get a ton at once. Oh, it all feels so good. It definitely helps that controlling a car in this game is just inherently satisfying and fun. When you're not using the Canunero, at least. The driving controls are tight, responsive, and just so fun. Your cars have weight, you have this fun slide whenever you make tight turns, and it's just very arcadey fun in general. It feels wonderful. There's even a reset button. If you press it, your car will snap onto the closest road, which can be very handy for the sake of fixing your positioning, or cheating. Of course, like any game like this, there's cars on the road that you'll have to avoid. This can definitely be frustrating if you're unlucky enough, especially if they switch lanes while you're driving past them. Use your turn signal! But the luck-based nature of this is part of the fun. Except the random lane switching, I actually hate that. There's also a hit and run meter. If you look at the map in the lower right corner, you can see a yellow bar filling up around the map with every object you destroy, every car you crash into, and every person you run over. Once that meter fills up, you'll have the police chase after you. If they ever get you stuck in a corner or whatever, you'll have to pay a fine of 50 coins, along with slowing you down pretty hard, potentially failing the mission for you. Alternatively, if you outrun them long enough for the meter to go all the way down, they'll leave you alone. I would make a joke about the cops letting you commit all the crimes you want as long as it's spaced out enough, but honestly, that actually sounds accurate given the competency of Springfield police. If anything, that's canon. This leads to an interesting balancing act. Do you drive carefully to prevent the police from giving you trouble, or do you drive recklessly to get to your destination under that time limit? Getting that right answer is dependent on how full your meter is and how much time you have left. This can be especially troublesome in the pier area where people strangely do not expect a car to start barreling through the walkways, which can ramp up the meter really fast. However, I actually went quite a while before I activated a hit and run, all the way up until level 6 without getting one even. I don't know if this is the common experience or if the hours of driving around aimlessly I've spent in this game paid off. Of course, aside from the hit and run meter, the other reason why you maybe don't want to bump into too many things is that your car will take damage. It eventually starts smoking. If it gets hit too much after that, it blows up. From there, you can actually still drive the car's frame. It's not recommended, but you can do it. You can repair a car at any point just by collecting one of these wrenches, which are spread pretty nicely throughout the map. If you fail to fix your car, you can call any car you've earned through these phone booths scattered throughout the game. You're rarely too far from one, and the one time you might be, you can just take whatever car you see on the road. You're not actually stealing them, instead every driver in town is fully willing to drive you wherever you want while now ignoring all laws. That's awfully nice of this town that would later be so willing to hang the whole family. These cars are just worse than whatever you have basically entirely across the board, so I'd only recommend doing this if you're just that far from a phone booth. As you'd probably expect, every car has their own stats, with some being ideal for some missions but not others. Like yeah, you'd probably want a big hulking car to destroy other cars, but that same car would be awful in a race. The cars early on have weaker stats, but whether it just be through story progress, doing side missions, literally just finding them, or even buying, you do unlock better and better cars throughout the game. Of course, many of these are from the show too. You got the family sedan, though it's now a convertible for some reason. I know they probably did that so you can see Homer, but there's other cars that just make the ceiling transparent, so I'm not sure what's up with that. Anyway, Bart has the honor roller from Saturdays of Thunder, Lisa has a Malibu Stacy car, Marge has a Canyon from The Last Temptation of Crust, Apu has a Pontiac Firebird, though now it's orange. Bart's second level has the Farini from Burns' Air, and then finally Homer's second level has the 70s sports car, a car he has in the flashback episode The Way We Was. Beyond the main cars, you have a lot of extra cars, and yeah, most of these are references too. I'm not going to list all of these because this video is already becoming a Simpsons episode guide as it is, but I'll name some highlights. There's some more reappearing vehicles from the show like the Duff Truck, a bunch of different cars like Snake's Bandit, Willie's Tractor and Skinner's Sedan, we got the Plow King and Mr. Plow from Mr. Plow, the Book Burning Mobile from They Saved Lisa's Brain, the hover bike from Lemon of Troy, the Electoris from Beyond Blunderdome, and my favorite is the Homer from Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? There's even some original cars thrown in there like the hover car and Glowback's supervillain car, the last one being based on Hank Scorpio's company. Each level has one exclusive car hidden somewhere like the rocket car from the day Violence died. This one has insane speed but has the durability of paper mache. You can drive the monorail? Where's Bitey? My favorite is Night Boat, the crime-solving boat. This one handles really well but also comes from the best episode. The final level has an RC car, which I don't understand how it works. I don't think it's a reference to anything. The stats are awful, especially for the final level, but it's so goofy that I still kind of love it. I kind of view these cars as novelties more than anything. Like, they're fun to find, I just don't think they usually have very much utility. They're always kinda out of the way to use because you unfortunately can't keep them once you're done using them, and they're never really better than any car you already have access to. Still, I can drive the monorail down the Matlock Expressway, so I can't say these don't add anything. The actual meat of the game would be the missions. In each level, there's 7 story missions and 1 bonus mission. In these, the game will give you an objective to do with some kind of time limit, with those time limits getting increasingly tighter and tighter the further you get into the game. The missions will have you do a variety of things, like simply driving from one spot to another as quickly as you can. Or what about collecting every item that the game wants you to? Sometimes they'll just be lying around, and sometimes you'll need to ram into a delivery truck repeatedly. Or the car might just drop them automatically and you'll have to keep up with them to collect them. Some missions will have you follow a car, some will have you race a car, others will have you destroy a car, and some will even have you drive away from a car. Almost every mission beyond the first level is some kind of combination of these, having one lead into another. The vast majority of this is all done driving. Very rarely will the game ever have you on foot for any of these, with only one entirely on-foot mission in the game and only a handful with on-foot sections other than brief moments where you need to get out to talk to a character. And I think that's part of my biggest issue with both of these missions in the game as a whole. There is simply not a lot of variety in this game, which leads to the game getting very repetitive. I mentioned earlier in this video that I've never beaten this game until I started working on this video, and that's why. It just doesn't take you long to see every mission type, and from then on the game is just repeating different combinations of the same objectives in the same 3 levels, constantly driving down the same roads, taking the same shortcuts. At times I feel as though the increasingly tighter time limits is the only thing truly changing throughout the game. I'm normally drained by the time I get to Apu's level. This time around I did take a bit longer, but I think that has more to do with my excitement for making this video. And I still felt pretty tired of this game by the time I got to the final level. I really do want to stress that this game is genuinely extremely fun up until that point, and I'm sure where that point is will vary for a lot of people, and maybe to some people it just doesn't happen. It does to me, unfortunately, but I do have a thoroughly fun time until then. But there are so many things that they could have done to prolong or even eliminate that point. Some of these missions are hard too. The developers admitted to making the time limits extremely tight for the sake of padding, because playtime was an important factor in game reviews at the time. And yeah, that shows. Because some of these are strict. The mission set to kill on level 6 is infamous for this, but I maybe might have cheated. Remember that reset feature I mentioned earlier? If you do that here, you warp pretty far along the path, saving you a bunch of time. Even with that skip, I still barely made it, but I made it. Another infamous one is the final mission in the game, Alien Autopsy 3. The goal is to take this toxic waste barrel from the power plant to all the way to the UFO at the school while also losing this guy in the way, all without crashing into anything too hard or... and with a very tight time limit. This one is known to be the reason so many people can't beat this game, some even spending hours on it and still never getting it. However, you know that reset that cheeses that other mission? Yeah, same here. Not in the same way, you can't skip much with it, but it does save you from crashing into walls while flying through the air, which will happen a lot. This actually made this kinda easy for me, beating this within a few attempts. There is one infamously hard mission I did not cheese with the reset button. Apu's Never Trust a Snake also has a very strict time limit. And I also beat this one in one try. Am I actually just good at this game, or was that luck? If any of these missions are ever too much for you, the game does give you the option to skip them if you fail too many times, excluding the final mission. The game expects you to do that one for real. This is not a thing I would use now, but I liked it as a kid because it allowed me to easily explore every map without having to stress about it too much. Beyond the standard missions, there's also the races. I don't mean the missions that involve racing, I mean the dedicated races found in each level. There's 3 per level, with one being hosted by Milhouse, another by Nelson, and another by Ralph. The 3 each have distinct styles of races, one being the standard multi-lap race against multiple other racers, one that's across the map instead of being lap-based, and one that's a race against time. Complete all of them in one level and get a car as an award from the DMV. Yeah, sure, I'd believe the Springfield DMV hosting street races. These are basic in concept, but the driving controls in this game are so good that these are always fun to do anyway. I really love how they inject the kid's personality into something as simple as the countdown. Milhouse is the dud he always has been in all of these, Nelson antagonizes the player, and Ralph never counts down correctly, until he eventually does in level 6 and is so proud of himself. The final level just has generic zombies, which fits the theming I guess, but is still a pretty big downgrade. Still, the first 6 always manage to bring a smile to my face.
The money I earn goes towards my dad's child support payments.
Honestly, the writing in this game in general is really strong, which helps a lot for when this game does get more repetitive with a few mission types it has. There will always be context to why you're doing the missions with some pretty great comedy, and all of these definitely feel like The Simpsons. Most missions in this game are for story progression, but there are plenty of missions in this game that just sound like something that a character would want to do. Flanders threatens to call the cops because so many of his things, including family portraits, have gone missing, so Homer drives around Springfield trying to collect the things he borrowed. Another has him being late for work, so of course he has to destroy Smithers' car to prevent him from being reported.
That's what you get for expecting me to do the job for which I am paid.
Marge convinces Homer to ram into the Bone Storm delivery truck and steal all the copies, all to prevent the youth from being tainted with violence. I love the commentary here. You know, the Simpsons game did this exact same thing. Anyway, that ends up having a direct impact on Bart in level 2. He skipped school that day specifically for Bone Storm, but when he's unable to find a copy because some crazy lady stole them all, he ends up switching his focus to illegal fireworks.
Sorry, Bart. I can't serve booze to a minor. It ain't right.
I'm here to buy fireworks.
Oh, hell yeah.
You'll also be helping a lot of other Springfieldians in these, like getting blood for Abe as Bart.
Mo, do you have any human blood?
Nah. What about goat blood?
Sure, why not?
Collecting ketchup packets for Cletus as Marge.
He's with Allah now.
Helping Snake with his community service is Apu, and plenty more examples. Even beyond the missions, there's a lot of small optional interactions that also are really funny.
My name is Homer.
I have sold my kidneys 3 times. I have no idea what's keeping me alive.
Mo is really funny, okay? I do really love all of these setups because this adds so much to making it feel like you're in the world of The Simpsons, but it's also a really funny game. Is there anything in the level of Mo's bar floor being repossessed, or the Tribopoline, or the Sugar Ranch, or the Makeup Shotgun, or the... Okay, I have to stop somewhere. No, there isn't. I'm sure this being a game obviously meant there'd be a lot of limitations in place compared to the show. And this was made between seasons 13 and 14, which was a while after the Golden Age. But the show is still pretty funny at that point, and so is this game. And yeah, we do have actual Simpsons writers here, like Matt Warburton, Tim Long, and Matt Selman. Dude, he's the current showrunner and is a major reason the show got so much better in recent years. So I don't think this game reaches the highs of the actual show, but I don't think anyone should have expected a game from 2003 to do that, and I still think it's more than funny enough to satiate most fans. Of course, we have the show's entire cast here too, and they do just as good of a job as they always have. Though I should point out that this game has that thing that so many licensed games have, where you hear the same canned clips from the characters constantly. And they're funny, but I can imagine them getting old after a while for a lot of people. Not me though, because I think I'm just too used to games that do this, and I'm sure it helps that it's Homer speaking. A lot of these are lines from the show, like,
I am evil Homer. I am evil Homer. I am so smart. I am so smart. S-M-R-T. I mean S-M-A-R-T. And people say I'm slow. Wait a minute. That was an insult.
I think it's pretty clever how they manage to recontextualize these classic lines into a driving game, especially the line about Homer being slow. In this game, there are 3 maps total used across the 7 levels. There's the suburbs, downtown, Springfield, and the docks. Instead of these levels being more open-ended, these levels are actually pretty linear. They're designed like circuits, there being one main path through the entire level that always eventually loops in on itself if you drive enough. Anything you see on the side will either be a shortcut or a side area with secrets. I don't think anyone imagines this as the most ideal way to design a game like this because it's just so much more limiting compared to something that is just open world with not that many benefits that I can see over it. Exploring a truly open world Springfield sounds like an actual dream game to me, and this game unfortunately does not provide that. It also makes this game feel even more repetitive than it already is for being designed like this. That whole thing I said earlier about driving down the same roads, taking the same shortcuts, yeah, I meant that. I do think these maps are worse off for it, but I don't think they're bad at all. I still like these quite a bit, and open world games were still pretty new at the time. So it's probably not reasonable to expect a game like this to be truly open world in 2003. It's just that when you present a game that is so close to being this incredibly cool thing, but it's not all the way there, it's hard to just not want that incredibly cool thing instead. Especially when I feel like that would have just resulted in a better experience. However, despite all of that, these maps, though more limiting than I would want, are still very fun to explore and even just drive around in. There are still so many secret areas that are fun to find, and these maps still represent the Springfield from the show extremely well. Though these maps do segment Springfield, they still do a very good job replicating the town you see in the show with basically every building or location you can think of, including ones that you wouldn't, being in this game somewhere. The suburbs probably has the most iconic spots like Evergreen Terrace, the Quickie Mart, Springfield Elementary, the power plant, Mr. Burns' mansion, even the tire fire is here. Downtown has a legitimate businessman's social club, Moe's Tavern, the DMV, the Sit and Rotate, the town center with the statue of Jebediah Springfield, complete with a head that falls off from the telltale head. The docks has the Android's Dungeon, the Aztec Theater, the Springfield Sign, the Duff Beer Factory, Springfield Dam, Sleep Easy Motel, and Krusty Lou Studios. They even let you go inside and see both Krusty's stage and Channel 6's set. And those are just the reoccurring locations. The suburbs has the burlesque house from Bart After Dark, Burns' life-size chessboard from Tennis the Menace, George Bush's house across the Simpsons' house from Two Bad Neighbors, the tobacco farm and crazed-looking cows from E.I.E.I.D.O., the garden above the Quickie Mart from Lisa the Vegetarian, the lemon tree from Lemon of Troy, and my absolute favorite is the Stonecutter's shortcut to the power plant from Homer the Great. I love that episode so much, and implementing that into the game as an actual shortcut is legitimately genius. They even have the knocked over silo from Skinner's Sense of Snow way off in the background. Oh, and the giant toilet from the episode where Homer let Abe's kidneys burst and ran away when he was supposed to give one of his. You know, the fan favorite episode. Downtown has the Matlock Expressway from Sideshow Bob Roberts, the monorail escalator that goes nowhere, popsicle stick building, and giant magnifying glass, all from Marge vs. the Monorail. I love how the popsicle stick building is completely burned down by level 5. The most insane detail is that the M on the monorail is missing and can be found attached to the Lard Lad statue, being a reference to how Homer used it as an anchor with it eventually connecting to a donut sign in the real episode. I'm literally obsessed with The Simpsons, and I would never have thought of adding that. The dogs have some really fun references too. Camp Krusty from the episode Camp Krusty, Mr. Burns' Casino complete with a sex appeal from $sign Pringfield, the lighthouse with Earl from Chili Cook-Off, Homer silhouette can even be found in level 6. I love the sea spanker found in the docks portion. It's not from any episode, but it has the Globex Corporation logo, being the company owned by Hank Scorpio from You Only Move Twice. This game has a lot of added Hank Scorpio lore. There's even more that I didn't list, but I've already listed too many, so I gotta stop somewhere. The point is that they did a really great job incorporating as many iconic locations as they could, both mainstays and one-offs. There are some notable omissions like Springfield Mall and Springfield Gorge, but they really got most of what you'd expect. I definitely would have loved to jump the gorge in this game though. Beyond all the references, there's a ton of visual gags spread throughout the game, like literally any sign like this has a joke that changes on each reload. Obviously there's the gags that count towards completion percentage I already mentioned. There's that bus that crashed through the DMV and almost every interior has some kind of joke going on in the background. There's a lot of these. Why does Kearney have an orange shirt here? 64 slices of American cheese is in this? Dude, Rosebud is such a funny episode. I'm also a big fan of Lisa's perpetual motion machine in Frink's lab.
In this house, we obey the laws of thermodynamics!
The suburbs is used for 3 levels in this game, while downtown and the docks are used twice. They're not the exact same levels on revisits or anything. They change the time of day, rearrange the collectibles, and even open up new areas in some cases. Like Mr. Burns' mansion is closed off in level 1 with only his backyard accessible, but the whole front yard and even the mansion itself opens up in level 4. Level 7 unfortunately closes off the rich side of town due to the game being rushed, but they do open up the graveyard and even some of the offices in the power plant, including Burns' office, complete with trapdoors everywhere. The other 2 levels weirdly don't open up new areas at all, but I suppose those levels only have 1 revisit each, so it's not as necessary. I do want to talk about level 7 for a bit though, because man, look at this. Kang and Kodos tainting Springfield's water supply allowed Radical to go wild and give Springfield a complete Treehouse of Horror reskin, and I could not adore this more. There's plenty of typical Halloween stuff here like witches, spiders, zombies, and ghostly voices of child characters in the playgrounds. That one is actually really creepy. Of course, we got plenty of references to various Treehouse of Horror segments like Lard Lad being alive like an attack of the 50-foot eyesores. Springfield Elementary was changed to Springward School of Magicry from Whiz Kids. I absolutely love Homer's crazed wall writing from The Shining, but they weirdly don't mention beer. I guess it's for censorship reasons, but Duff is mentioned in plenty of places in this game. Is it just the word beer? That's dumb. My favorite is Bart's clown vet from Lisa's First Word. It's not even from a Treehouse of Horror, but, I mean, look at this thing. I get it, Bart. I get it. Aesthetically, this is easily one of my favorite levels ever. I love absolutely everything about how this looks. I just wish they were able to reskin the entire thing. Otherwise, the graphics in general are mostly just fine. I don't have any real complaints with the environments, but some of the character models look weird. It's always going to be a struggle reimagining 2D characters in the 3D world. Sometimes it works out pretty well, other times... no. The show itself already did it with both Homer and Bart in a Treehouse of Horror segment, and yeah, I'm gonna say it, they both look fine. And even in this game. I think Marge would look a lot better if they gave her her eyelashes. Not sure why they didn't. A lot of the NPC characters look pretty off too, but I'd assume the lower poly count is at least a part of that. Lisa, on the other hand, is unsalvageable. She doesn't have eyelashes either, but her starfish hair is definitely the bigger issue. It looks great in this show, but there's just no good way to translate it into 3D. The Simpsons game was right to give up and just make it a billboarded sprite. Speaking of that game, it had this really great cel-shaded style that matched the show's aesthetic probably about as well as a 3D game could at that time, and I still really love it. Heck, even the PS2 version looks nice. I definitely would have loved if this game looked like that, because even in the best case scenarios, it just doesn't have the same level of appeal as the show does. I think a show like SpongeBob can look surprisingly great in 3D, which is why it doesn't bother me when the newer movies or even the games go for that style, but The Simpsons just doesn't translate as well. There's a reason why one of the trailers for the Simpsons movie was making fun of that idea. You could probably make an ultra-stylized CG Simpsons movie like the Peanuts movie, but that wouldn't work in a game, so that kinda goes beyond the discussion here. I don't mean to target this game specifically for this was just the standard for licensed games at the time, but regardless of what probably understandable circumstances that led to this game's visuals, it still led to this. I do want to compliment the menu though. I love how it leads directly from the first cutscene, and every option directs you to a different object in the living room, all while the iconic theme plays in the background. The music in this game in general is pretty wonderful. There's a driving theme for each level, tons of different mission themes, and random musical stings that play while you're walking on foot. The cool thing is that each character has different music to reflect their personality. Homer has goofy orchestral music that matches the vibe of the show's main theme extremely well. Bart has a lot of rock music, Lisa has jazz with an emphasis on the saxophone. Apu has Indian-inspired music, Homer's final level has a ton of Halloween music, and Marge has Homer's leftovers. That is honestly disappointing, but she at least has unique musical stings. A lot of this sounds really great too. I absolutely love the song that plays in some of the missions in Bart's second level, Milking the Pigs. Any song that includes a bell is better for it. Lisa's driving theme, Harbor Hustle, is a really great jazz piece that actually sounds like something she'd play, with The Simpsons' main theme acting as a leitmotif in several moments in the song. I also really love the driving theme in Level 7, Halloween Havoc. It's definitely the most tense of every driving theme, which makes sense given the scenario and difficulty. But it's also a song that just gets stuck in my head a lot. This game's soundtrack is great. There are plenty of songs in this game that are so memorable and match the vibe of this game and even show itself so well. I really couldn't imagine a better soundtrack for a Simpsons video game. There's a few extra things I wanted to talk about before the video ends. First off, those cards I mentioned way earlier, if you get all of them, Comic Book Guy will give you a ticket to see an Itchy and Scratchy short at the Aztec Theater. And yeah, you can watch it. Yeah, nowadays you can easily watch this on YouTube, but back in 2003, getting a fully original Itchy and Scratchy short as a reward is pretty cool. Other than that, there's a top-down racing minigame. I'm gonna be honest, I really don't care about this. Oh, there's some cheat codes too! Some are actual cheats like One Hit Wreck, which is extremely fun. There's also Invincible Cars, which is basically mandatory if you want to use the most fun one, Honk to Jump. I've spent way too many hours doing this to explore Springfield in ways I probably wasn't supposed to back when I was a kid. In fact, I discovered a way to break into Birds' mansion in level 1 back then, which was such a cool moment for me. The coolest one is the one that lets you cycle through every character in the game just by pressing the kick button, including no-name NPCs. Just don't start a mission. It looks like Milhouse is backwards long jumping. Is that the Carney kid from that Season 9 episode? Why is he here? Where is he in this game? Is he unused or did I just miss him? I made Lenny beat up a child and get arrested.
Not Lenny!
I've read sources say that you need to 100% the game to get this, but I've also read sources say that you only need to beat it, so I don't know what to believe. But it does seem like it is a PC-only code. However, the console versions do have their own codes, like this grid one that was probably a leftover from debugging, and this drunk driving one that I didn't even know existed up until recently because it's only in the PS2 version. It's extremely nauseating, so I don't feel like I missed out on much. Aside from that last one, I'm so glad these cheats are in the game. They've added so many additional hours of fun for me when I was a kid, and even today I probably recorded that Honk to Jump cheat way more than I needed to. Before I end this video, I want to talk about some mods available for this game, because there's a ton. I'm only covering a handful here because I really just want to paint a picture of how big the modding community is for this game, and I am extremely open to eventually making a dedicated video on these one day. You'll need the PC version and Lucas's mod loader to play these, but that's how I recommend playing the game anyway. You can find all of these on Donut Team's website. First, I want to start off with some miscellaneous smaller mods. We have a really simple one that I've used in all of this video's footage by SomeBot. It realigns the HUD with wider aspect ratios in mind, like 16:9 and even 16:10 for you Steam Deck users. Without this mod, the HUD remains in its default 4:3 positioning, which I don't think looks as good. There's a roofed family sedan mod by the Donut Team themselves made to be more accurate to the show, which allows me to finally sleep at night. A really cool one is the fully connected map mod made by Collectables, where every level is connected to one map, making the game feel much more open than it was originally. This was mainly made for story mods to allow for way more flexibility in their missions, but it's still really fun to just drive around with this mod. The connection points feel pretty natural, they give you some pretty cool views in these levels that you wouldn't normally get, and they even reference the show, much like the base game. Like here's Suicide Bridge from the episode Eternal Moonshine of the Simpsons Mind. It's a season 19 episode, but I promise it's a good one. It feels weird that I have to mod the game to get Homer to go to Moe's, though. This one doesn't have any missions tied to it, but it's still very cool. It's a recreation of that Treehouse of Horror segment, Homer Cubed, even opening up with that clip of Homer walking into the third dimension. It has the teacups, the now drivable equations and spheres, the 3D roadsides, that building, the pool, and
Holy macaroni!
it even replaced the police with a cone that harassed Homer. This one was actually made by Muckluck, who's a YouTuber who has covered basically every hit and run mod out there and even made a video documenting his experience making this mod, so go check his stuff out. Steamed Hams by Nightbane. Of course there's steamed hams in this. There's only one real mission tied to this, one where you have to collect the Krusty Burgers to disguise them as Skinner's cooking. Very delightfully devilish of him. Beyond that, it's just the steamed ham scene played out with hit and run's very limited animations, though I do love how they handled the song. Another cool one is Road Rage Returns by the Donut Team. It imports a map and even models from Road Rage and even adds missions, with the first one being killing Bart. This one is cool if you ever wanted to play the map with hit and runs gameplay or even just explore the Springfield on foot, though it did crash for me talking to Snake, so I didn't get far in. Storm Over Springfield by Collectables. Hey, this one has a roofed car by default. This one is extremely cool, having a story based around Homer preparing for an upcoming hurricane. This is obviously based on the episode Hurricane Nettie, even using a bunch of audio from it for character interactions. The missions here are really fun too. I love the one where you have to follow Snake while still picking up stuff on the way. It's a really interesting combination of two mission types that the original game never does. Oh man, that final mission where you're driving through the storm is so cool. The tornadoes are an absolute RNG nightmare, but it's funny, so it's okay. I love that the tornadoes don't even stop during cutscenes. Probably not fair, but again, it's funny. You can even see them freak out in some spots. The map also refused to load here and I got stuck on something. I forgot about the reset button, so I just jumped down and used someone else's car and this happened. Still, this is a great mod and you should play it. Annoy Squidward by Nightbane is a really impressive one. It turns hit and run into a mini SpongeBob game, having a whole 2 levels with every character and even the map itself changed accordingly. Though Bikini Bottom clearly uses Springfield as a base, which doesn't quite fit Bikini Bottom incredibly well, but they did a great job making it fit as well as possible. Lots of locations were swapped, like Krusty Burger is now the Krusty Krab, the Quickie Mart is now the Bargain Mart, the Trailer Park is now Sandy's Tree Dome, Moe's is now Weenie Hut Jr.'s, and the train area is now Tentacle Acres. Some of these are kind of a stretch, like the power plant is now Rock Bottom, but I don't know what else that would be. There's lots of music from different SpongeBob things, like Grass Skirt Chase is the hit and run theme, but it's mostly game music. SpongeBob games have a weird amount of great songs, even in games that aren't even good. There's a song that plays from Lights, Camera, Pants in this mission where you have to avoid jellyfish, and it's so good. I probably would have never found this song without this mod. That mission is extremely cool too, being a mostly on-foot mission where you have to maneuver past jellyfish. There's another on-foot segment as Plankton in these vents. It's great seeing more on-foot stuff in this game, but man, these controls never bothered me more. Those last 2 missions were extremely hard, by the way, with the last one making you destroy this character Cheapskate's car 3 times within 3 minutes, while his goons ruin your life over and over. I swear these last 2 missions took up over half of my my recording. It was insane. Easily the hardest things I've done in this game. I do love how this recolored Mr. Krabs uses Battle for Bikini Bottom's Joe White clips, though. That's pretty funny. I did have a great time with this mod until those last 2 missions really started to push my patience, so I'd really recommend this one too. Hell Inspector's mod of stupidity by Hell Inspector is an experience. It's a big crossover. Obviously there's Simpsons in this, but King of the Hill too? Dude, King of the Hill is my other favorite show. I love it so much. Got South Park here, Bob's Burgers.
My name is Homer.
Shut up!
Go watch a Bob's Burgers movie. Oh, and Family Guy. I'm sorry, I don't like Family Guy. I hate Family Guy. Wallace from Wallace and Gromit is a prominent character in this too, but I've never seen that before, don't hate me. Gromit is here too, and oh boy. They changed the map to have a bunch of different buildings from different shows too, like the Hill House, Strickland Propane, the Griffin House, Bob's Burgers, Luigi's Casino. Is that one Squidward screamer? Yeah, there's lots of memes in this too, including steamed hams. Again, you can even go through the window to go to Krusty Burger, or that. I found this computer in an area that's normally out of bounds and it started to play this video. There are original cutscenes in this too, and they are such high effort, being fully new animations, even using the same models the base game used for pre-rendered cutscenes, because yeah, those are out there. And the actual animation quality is way too good for what this is. The missions are really cool too. One has Homer helping Wallace take care of a rabbit infestation at Burns' mansion and power plant. Another has you helping Hank recover the stolen propane tanks. There's a race based on the old kart racer South Park Rally. There's a straight up Captain Toad level. Though this one is kinda buggy, his lamp is not connected to his helmet for some reason, at least for me. And my first attempt loading up the level made me fall back down to Springfield, so I was just playing as him in the overworld. I used this opportunity to beat up my clone and start a hit and run, and then I heard Patrick Star? Anyway, the final mission has you teaming up with Hank, Wallace, and Wario to defuse all of Mr. Bean's bombs, and ends off on Mr. Bean summoning SpongeBob from Battle for Bikini Bottom. This mod is incredible!
Holy crap, I am freaking out!
No!
Thank you. Seriously, go play this mod. I know I talked a lot about it, but I still left out a ton. You can jump kick Larry the Cucumber! There's a couple cool looking mods coming out in the future that I want to highlight real quick too. The big one for me is Futurama Hit and Run by Slurm Team, featuring playable Fry, Bender, and Leela in a fully new map in the form of New New York. I love Futurama too, so to see this get this treatment is an absolute joy to me. It's been in development for a few years, but the most recent update wasn't that long ago, so I have faith it'll come out. The other one I wanted to talk about is a remaster mod by El Gato del Tejado. This one features new models, redrawn textures, a new cel-shaded style, and even fully reanimated cutscenes remade in the style of the show. This person studied the show's style guide to make it look as accurate as possible, and it looks awesome. Is it as well animated as the actual show? No, but it's way closer than a fan should ever be able to get. I admire this so much. I think the cel shading looks a bit weird even if I love the idea, but otherwise I absolutely love everything I'm seeing here. They haven't posted about this in over a year, so I'm not sure what's going on with this right now, but I do at least love seeing all of this. Those are all of the mods I wanted to cover for now, but if you're a fan of the game and haven't played any of these, I really do recommend checking these out on the Donut Team website. There's a lot of really dedicated fans out there putting out some great stuff, and I really only scratched the surface. There's so much more. They're all very easy to install too, so don't assume you can't do it. I'll put a link to a guide and everything I mentioned in the description. So that was The Simpsons Hit and Run, a game that clearly had the utmost respect for its source material and was made with a ton of love. That while it does have repetitive gameplay, is still very fun before the game repeats itself too much. Regardless of what you may think of that last point, or even if you think this game is good at all, it's hard to argue that this isn't a phenomenal Simpsons game. The writing is incredibly on point, they utilize basically every recurring character you would want, the story feels right at home in a Treehouse of Horror special, the music is extremely fitting for The Simpsons, and there's a disgusting amount of references. I already listed off tons of them, probably too many, but there are so many more. This is like that one recent Treehouse of Horror segment stretched out for an entire game, and that's genuinely impressive. I love that segment, by the way, it's so fun. That's how you know this game was made by huge fans of the show, because because it's something you can't fake. I do think this is a flawed game overall for its lack of variety, but I still really like it and implore any Simpsons fan who somehow hasn't played it already to do that. If the repetitive gameplay is an issue to you too, you really don't have to beat the game if you don't want to. I think even just playing this game until you feel like you had your fill is a worthwhile experience. It's available on all 6th generation consoles and PC, though some versions are better than others. I actually learned recently, thanks to this video by Button Mash that featured an interview from the man himself, that the GameCube version was made by one Chad of a developer, Carrie Brisebois, which is very impressive, but apparently resulted in a somewhat scuffed port. I say apparently because that's the one I have the most playtime in and don't remember any notable issues, but that's only my experience and it's also been years. The Xbox version is unsurprisingly the best console version, even coming with widescreen support apparently. The PS2 version is probably the only port that you should avoid if you can, only because it runs in 30 FPS instead of 60. The PC port is the best version if you can mod it with Lucas's mod loader, which isn't hard to do. Even on Steam Deck, surprisingly. I just moved the files over for my PC and applied Proton Experimental to the mod loader and that was it. I am so used to getting mod loaders working on the Steam Deck to be a massive hassle, so that was actually shocking to me. Once you install the mod loader and turn on a few settings, the PC port basically becomes an HD port, making it the best way to play the game. Plus, you have all this fun stuff to play too. As for any potential re-release or remake, probably not happening. The game's rights are split up among a bunch of different companies, which would make licensing hard, and then there's a problem with Apu. Due to him being in this weird limbo state in the show where they just don't want to use him again until they finally retool him to be better Indian representation, which they just haven't yet, I don't think Fox or Disney wants to release a new Simpsons thing with this old depiction of Apu, and even if they were to retool him by then, implementing the new Apu into a potential remake would require a ton of additional work and would probably upset a lot of fans. I personally don't really want a remake anyway. I think this idea has so much more potential than what this game offers, so a sequel would be far more ideal to me. There was going to be a sequel, but it was very unfortunately cancelled. I normally mean this as a joke, but this time I'm saying it with malice. Boy, I really hope somebody was fired for that blunder. This is such a fun and unique gameplay loop, even compared to GTA, so I'd happily play any game in this style. Simpsons or not, though I do still dearly want to see Springfield in a more fleshed out version of this, so a true hit-and-run sequel would still be more ideal to me. Recently, EA lost the rights to the Simpsons video game IP, meaning The Simpsons is finally out of tapped-out hell. If we were to get a revival of Simpsons video games in the same way SpongeBob did, now would be the time. Or we could just get more freemium garbage. That is also a strong possibility. But for real, I do think that Hit and Run is in a very similar place Battle for Bikini Bottom was in, and look what happened to that game. Again, a remake probably isn't likely, but who's to say that we won't get Cosmic Shake for The Simpsons? Or at least the arcade game on modern platforms. Please, it'd be the easiest thing in the world. I don't want to spend hundreds to have this big cabinet take up space I don't have. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I obviously love The Simpsons, if that wasn't clear enough, so I had a great time fanboying both over the show itself and the game. This is a gaming channel, so I just haven't really had the opportunity to rant about the show on the level that I've been wanting to, and I'm happy I've finally been able to do that. And yeah, of course, the game itself is still really cool despite my criticisms. Anyway, as always, thank you for watching, and bye.